Biggest objection killing your sales is the one you never hear. Let me ask you this. Have you ever finished what you thought was a great presentation and the client said they were really impressed and then they disappeared? They ghosted you? So what do? You follow up, of course. Once, twice, maybe three times. And finally they say something vague like, "We decided to go in another direction." You're left wondering, what happened? You're sure the proposal was right, the price was fair, and you know you could have delivered great results. Here's what really happened. They didn't trust you enough to buy. And they were never going to tell you that. That hurts, doesn't it? And it's one of the main reasons we avoid confronting this uncomfortable truth. But this silent objection kills more sales than anything else. Think about it. No client ever looks you in the eye and says, "I don't trust you." In fact, they probably don't even recognize it's a lack of trust themselves. But trust isn't just about you personally. There are three layers of trust in every sale. They need to trust you, they need to trust the information that you give them, and they need to trust your company to deliver what you promise. If any one of those is missing, the sale is in danger, even if the other elements are strong. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've got a great personal rapport with a client. They like you, they believe you're honest, they believe you're genuine. But then they start to doubt the information you have given them. Maybe the numbers don't add up. Maybe something sounds too good to be true. Maybe you're giving them your best case scenario. Suddenly, they're now not just doubting the data, they're doubting you. Or maybe they trust you completely, but they've read mixed reviews about your company. A tiny seed of doubt starts to grow, not because they think you're lying, but because they feel uncertain, and uncertainty kills momentum. World-class business people protect all three layers of trust, because if one cracks, the whole structure wobbles. Here's why your client doesn't speak out. They don't say, "I don't trust you, your company, or your information," because it's not socially acceptable. And not only that, it's not even conscious thought in your client's mind. People just get a feeling that something isn't right, even if they can't explain why. When people don't feel trust, they don't confront you, they protect themselves. They smile, they say nice things, and they tell you they'll think about it. And then they quietly walk away. That's why it's called the silent objection. And if you don't know it's there, you'll waste years perfecting your close, your presentations, your follow-up, without ever solving the real problem, a lack of trust. Neuroscience tells us trust isn't logical, it's emotional. When the brain senses risk, uncertainty, or self-interest, it fires the amygdala, the part that says, protect yourself. The client might love your product, but if that part of the brain activates, they'll hold back, they'll stall, and then they'll disappear. A Harvard study found that nearly 80% of purchase hesitation comes from emotional uncertainty, not product fit. In other words, they weren't sure whether to trust the person selling it. When I first understood this, everything about my approach changed. I stopped seeing objections as roadblocks and started to see them as symptoms of missing trust. Price, timing, I need to think about it, they're not real objections. They're ways of saying, I don't feel safe enough yet to make this decision. That's the difference between average business people, entrepreneurs, and trusted advisors. Average entrepreneurs or business people argue with objections. Trusted advisors remove the need for objections entirely. So how do you prevent the silent objection before it appears? You build a relationship, a real one, long before you try to close. I don't mean sending Christmas cards or pretend to be someone's best friend. I mean creating genuine emotional connection, where the client believes this person understands me. In my book, The Personalization Code Sales Method, I talk about the power of understanding what makes each client tick. When you tailor your communication to their personality, their priorities, their preferences, they feel seen, heard, and valued. And that's the beginning of trust. Let me illustrate this with an example. A few years ago, I was coaching a consultant in my company. Years of experience, deep product knowledge, crystal clear explanations. But he couldn't close. So I sat in on his presentations, and it became obvious. He treated the meeting like a lecture. He talked at people instead of with them. His facial expression never changed, and it gave the impression he wasn't listening. And when the prospect answered one of his questions, no matter the answer, he simply moved to the next question. So I asked him to change one thing. For every question he asked, he had to ask 2 follow-up questions based on their answer. If a client said, I've got this challenge. He would ask, what's most important to you about solving that? And then, why is that important to you? It's simple, powerful, and transformative. Because the real skill is not in a list of questions. It's listening to the answers and digging deeper for real understanding. Take your cue from the other person. Build the conversation around them. Take genuine interest in that person. You can't do this with a script. At first it feels uncomfortable because it requires vulnerability. But over time, done well, this will become your favorite part of any meeting. Because when your curiosity is real, your relationship becomes real. If you approach each meeting with the mindset, I want to understand this person deeply, you won't just get the information you need, you'll build a long-lasting, trusting relationship. Now, I know that building relationships gets thrown around a lot in sales. Here's what it actually means. Show genuine interest. Don't just ask what they need, ask why they need it. Care about their outcome, not your commission. Mirror their communication style. If they're detailed, focused, give detail. If they're big picture, paint the vision for them. This is personalization in action. Be consistent. Do what you say you'll do. Follow up when you say you will. Consistency is the backbone of credibility. And be honest about fit. If your product isn't right for them, say so. That kind of honesty shocks people and it builds lifelong trust. And by the way, if you'd like free weekly tips on building deeper client relationships and closing more deals without pressure, head over to trustinsales.com and sign up, and you'll get short, practical insights you can apply right away. And while you're here, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next. Here's something that I've learned in over 46 years in sales. People don't buy because they understand you. They buy because they feel you understand them. When trust is present, logic follows. When trust is missing, logic is useless. You can have the best price, the best pitch, the best everything, but without trust, it's all wasted breath. So how do you know when trust is missing? Here are the signs to look out for. The client delays without a clear reason. They ask for one more proposal. They ask irrelevant questions. They stop responding after a good meeting. These are all trust issues in disguise. If there's one thing to take from this video, it's this. The biggest objection you'll ever face is the one you never hear. You don't overcome it by talking more. You overcome it by listening better. When your client feels you're on their side, that silent objection disappears. And what's left is two people working together to find the right solution. That's when selling stops feeling like, well, selling, and starts feeling like helping. In the next episode, we'll look at what happens after the meeting. Why clients who liked you and promised to call you back suddenly vanish, and what you can do to stop it. Sales are fragile. They are built over time, but they can be lost in a moment. So hit subscribe if you haven't already, and visit trustinsales.com. I'm Peter Croney. This is Trust in Sales, and I'll see you in episode 5. They liked you. They said they'd call. Here's why they didn't.